cartels are right there. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Girivardhari Jasodhanandana Vrajanandana Jasodhanandana Vrajanandana Jamanathira Vanam Jadi Jamanathira Vanam Jadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Girivardhari Jasodhanandana Vrajanandana Jasodhanandana Vrajanandana Jamanathira Vanam Jadi Jamanathira Vanam Jadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jayo Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Hari Vijagacharya Astatarasata Srimad His Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Gaura Premanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're continuing. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. We'll try to continue. Let's see what happens. I lost my place here. Okay. Excuse me while I find the place the page closed down. Here we go. We're still discussing Canto 10, Chapter 9, Text 20, where Shukadeva Goswami is establishing that Yashoda, and Nanda for that matter, they're superior to Brahma and Shiva, although Brahma and Shiva have great devotion and all knowledge. Yashoda and Nanda are superior. They're even superior to Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. So where we're reading from, in reference to this text 20, comes in Rupa Goswami's writing in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, where he writes, Krishna is surrounded by devotees with intense prema. An example is in the 10th canto, chapter 31, text 15. This is in the Rasa Lila section. The gopis say to Krishna, when you go off to the forest during the day, a tiny fraction of a second becomes like a millennium for us because we cannot see you. And even when we can eagerly look upon your beautiful face, so lovely with its adornment of curly locks, our pleasure is hindered by our eyelids, which were fashioned by the foolish Creator. They blink. That was the foolishness of Brahma. Jiva Goswami writes in his commentary to Rupa Goswami's verse, this example shows the great love of the devotees by showing their hankering, which is not seen anywhere else. The following special position of Krishna's devotees should be noted. And in this verse, it's chapter 14, Brahma's prayers, where the verse begins, Aho bhagyam, aho bhagyam. He says it twice. Nanda Gopa Vrajanau Kasam. How greatly fortunate are Nanda Maharaj, the cowherd men, and all the other inhabitants of Brajabhumi. There is no limit to their good fortune, because the absolute truth, the source of transcendental bliss, the eternal Supreme Brahman, has become their friend. Mitram is the word. Mitram. It's one of the words for friend or friendship. Mitram. Paramanandam. Purnam Brahma Sanatanam. Or, that was Brahma's prayers, chapter 14. Here's chapter 9, text 20. Our verse. Our host and hostess, We've been discussing chapter 9 of Canto 10, Damodara Lila, and we're now at verse 20. And so this verse 20 translation reads, this very special love of the resident in Vrindavan is expressed in this verse. Neither Lord Brahma, nor Lord Shiva, nor even the goddess of fortune, who is always the better half of the Supreme Lord, can obtain from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the deliverer from this material world, such mercy as received by Mother Yashoda. So we did that summary. She's superlative, above, who's above Brahma and Shiva and the goddess of fortune? Mother Yashoda. Then the cowherd boys, those of you that have been hearing these classes, you know this verse. I'll say it, and you'll recognize the words of the verse. It's from chapter 12, speaking about the cowherd boys. Etam satam brahmasukanu brutya dasyam katanam paradaivatena maya shatanam naradarakena sakam prajru krita punya punjaha. Krita punya punjaha. Krita punya punjaha. Here, Sukadeva Goswami is speaking. Here is the Supreme Person, who is considered by the impersonal Brahman by great sages, the Supreme Personality of Godhead by devotees, and a product of material nature by ordinary men. Now, these boys, who have performed many, many pious activities in their past lives, are playing with that same Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the good fortune of the residents of Braja. That's the topic. The gopis. This is Uddhava speaking. Chapter 47. Uddhava says, the gopis receive benedictions from the Lord that neither Lakshmi Devi nor the most beautiful dancers in the heavenly planets could attain. In the rasa dance, the Lord showed his favor to the most fortunate gopis by placing his arms on their shoulders and dancing with each of them individually. No one can compare with the gopis who receive the causeless mercy of the Lord. So again, in Rupa Goswami's writing, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, we hear another example, which reads, because I and my husband have worshipped Vishnu constantly, Putana and other demons have been destroyed. They're attributing, this is Nanda and Yashoda, specifically it's Yashoda speaking about Krishna's, the destruction of the demons is because of their Vishnu bhakti. Vishnu protected them. Because I and my husband have worshipped Vishnu constantly, Putana and other demons have been destroyed. 2 Arjuna trees were uprooted by the wind, and Vishnu protected him. I saw with my own eyes that Govardhan Hill was held up by my husband, along with Balaram's help, because of worshipping Vishnu. How would it be possible for my baby to perform all these different difficult tasks? Vatsalya Rasa, on the transcendental plane. Jiva Goswami's commentary. The previous verse shows the greatness of Yashoda's Vatsalya Rasa. The Bhagavatam confirms this. It's our text 20. Yashoda's Vatsalya Rasa. Neither Lord Brahma, nor Lord Shiva, nor even the goddess of fortune, was always the better half of the Supreme Lord, can obtain from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the deliverer from the material world, such mercy as received by Mother Yashoda. This verse clearly shows the purity of her love. It shows Yashoda's supreme simplicity, in relation to Krishna, as she explains everything in terms of protection by Vishnu. It can also be taken as a joking conversation. The meaning is this, quote, because the Lord of the cowherd men, Nanda, along with me, worship Vishnu, Putana and other demons have been destroyed. The two Arjuna trees were uprooted just by the wind, not by Krishna. Thinking in this way, she concluded that Vishnu has protected her son. Govardhan was actually lifted by the chief of the cowherd men by the strength of his worshipping Vishnu as well, along with Balaram. The hint here is that if her son could lift the mountain, then why not Balaram also? Ramena Sardham. This attitude is also expressed clearly in ancient depictions of Krishna holding Govardhan with the assistance of others. Sridhar Swami has also explained this. Here's a reference to this passage from Brihat Bhagavatamrita. These are always nice. Sanatana Goswami's explanations. Same verse, text 20, is the verse, and the commentary reads, while describing the good fortune of Yashoda, Srila Shukadeva Goswami became more and more amazed, and the hairs on his body stood on end. Although many devotees of Krishna obtained Krishna's favor, the mercy received by Yashoda was most wonderful. While thinking of this, Shukadeva Goswami spoke this verse, our text 20 verse. Shukadeva affectionately refers to Mother Yashoda as Gopi. Doesn't even mention her name, just Gopi. And Maharaj Parikshit knows who he means. Alluding to her privileged status as the wife of the king of the Gopas. The favor she obtained from Krishna was never achieved by Krishna's son, Brahma, by Krishna's friend, Shiva, or by his dear consort Lakshmi, who always resides on his chest. How then could lesser persons than these ever receive as much favor as Yashoda? Yashoda is a better devotee than Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and the goddess Lakshmi, because all three of them merely worship Krishna with reverence as the Supreme Godhead, but she has pure affection for him as her son. The Damodar pastime in which Yashoda tied Krishna with rope demonstrated the power of God to resist all attempts to capture him. But when Yashoda witnessed Krishna's omnipotence, her pure maternal love only increased. To emphasize the unique position of Mother Yashoda in this verse, Srila Shukadeva Goswami repeats 3 times the negation, da. The 3 greatest personages of the material world may obtain great favor from Krishna, but they are unable to please Krishna or obtain as much favor as Yashoda. Most people living in this material world are much less fortunate than Brahma, Shiva, and Lakshmi, and cannot even imagine the sublime position of Mother Yashoda. To sincere aspirants for spiritual perfection, Krishna gives liberation from the bondage of birth and death, but his love for his mother is so special that he lets her bind him with ropes meant for tying cows. To some pure Vaishnavas, Krishna grants vimukti, or the superior liberation of elevation to his own world, to live in his proximity in transcendental bliss. Let him grant this vimukti to fortunate souls. But even such Vaishnavas cannot expect the favor shown to Mother Yashoda. Very beautiful. Very beautiful. So here's another text making reference to our text 20, and this is from Ujjvala Nilamani. Tika. Tika means commentary. So Ujjvala Nilamani is the sequel, or what comes after Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And the reference, the women devatas, that's how it begins. When Krishna, in his expansions, appear in the heavenly planets among the devatas, expansions of his Nitya Priyas also appear to be born among the devatas to satisfy him. It'll be explained. When Krishna appears on earth, those expansions appear in Braja as young cowherd girls and become Priya Sakis of the original consorts. Jiva Goswami writes, this confirms what is said in the Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 1. This is before Krishna's birth. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, who has full potency, will personally appear as the son of Vasudeva. Therefore, heavenly women should also appear in order to satisfy him. This is Brahma's appeal to Krishna to appear. And it's stated, Brahma's informing them what Krishna said. The ladies in the heavenly planet should also appear on earth to assist in Krishna's pastimes. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes, Krishna appears as the Manvantara avatars among the devatas. There's 6 kinds of avatars, right? 6 categories, and Manvantara avatar is one. Manus. One of the avatar categories is Manus, and they appear in the Devata realm. Doubt. Oh, but it is not suitable to say that his consort expansions become prana sakis. Those who are expansions enter into Krishna when he appears. For instance, the expansions Drona and Dara entered into Nanda and Yashoda when they appeared on earth. That was a doubt. Did you catch the doubt? No? I'll read the reply, then we'll go back to the doubt. That is true. There are 3 types of expansions of Nitya. We've been going around and around with Radha about, Nitya Siddhas. Here it's Nitya Priyas. And we're not going to go around and around on that one either. Nitya Priyas, those who are dear associates of Krishna in the spiritual realm. There are 3 types of expansions of the Nitya Priyas situated among the planets of the Devatas. Some persons in the heavenly planets become devotees of his pastimes by hearing about his pastimes from Narada and others. These devotees are of 3 types. Those who purely follow the associates in his pastimes. They're like apprentices to his eternal associates from the Devata realm. Those who follow by identifying themselves as the associates, Ahangro Upasana, and those who do not follow the associates. Among the first type are some of the Devatas who become Priya, not Nitya, but Priya, Sakhas, cowherd boys, such as boys that are younger in age than Sudama and Subal, etc. And when they grow, their wives become Priya Sakis of Radha and the Gopis. That's the first category. They become, apprentices to the Priyasakas and Priyasakis. Others become male and female friends of Nanda and Yashoda and others. So they're the adults. There's the children, there's the adults. The second type, the Ahanga Upasana type, they merge into the male or female associates. Just as Drona and Dara merge into Nanda and Yashoda. Some sages merge into the cows, calves, and birds of Vrindavan. Pretty mysterious, huh? And here's the third type. They have no desire for following the associates. They do not attain the associates because in order to attain the associates, one must follow after them. An example is Lakshmi. It is said, here comes our text 20. Brahma, Shiva, even the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, don't attain the mercy that Mother Yashoda attains. The meaning is this: Krishna is not available to those who are interested in artha, dharma, and kama, to those interested in liberation, jnani nam, and to those atma bhutas, like Brahma, Shiva, and Lakshmi. These three persons are mentioned in the previous verse. Oh, the previous verses are text 20. Neither Brahma, nor Shiva, nor the goddess of fortune, etc. They are called Atma Bhuta. So what does Atma Bhuta mean? They identify themselves as the Lord. Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, they identify themselves as lords. There are lords. Not the Supreme Lord, but they identify themselves as controllers. Because Brahma and Shiva think of themselves as his avatars, and Lakshmi identifies herself as the Shakti of the Lord. For these three types of people, the son of Yashoda does not give happiness, or at least the same happiness that is given to the Brijbasis. However, the son of Vikunta, not Vaikunta, but Vikunta, or the sons of Kaushalya, give them happiness. The son of Yashoda, Krishna, gives them grief. No, Brahma has a problem, Shiva has a problem, Lakshmi has a problem. But he does give happiness to the devotees in Braja, to those with devotion to the son of Yashoda. The type of bhakti is described in other verses. This is like really far out, isn't it? I mean, this is 401, Krishna consciousness. Here's chapter 87, which is prayers of the personified Vedas. These women fully absorb their minds in meditation on Lord Krishna's powerful arms, which are like the bodies of great serpents. Thinking of that enjoyment, this is Brahma Vamana Purana, Brihat Vamana Purana, another reference. Thinking of that enjoyment, the enjoyment of the Brijbasis, our desire to act in the manner that the gopis living on your planet serve has manifested in us. This is called Raganuga Bhakti. By meditation upon the servants, the perfected devotees, awakens a desire to become like them. And if the qualification comes, that's Raganuga Bhakti. that happiness he gives to persons with bhakti following the associates, just like the Upanishads mentioned in this above verse, Krishna does not give to others. It is obtained by accepting the suffering of following humbly after the gopis or other associates. Now that's not suffering. Humility isn't suffering, but it's the mood of separation that they have. That's a transcendental suffering. It is difficult for Brahma, Shiva, or Lakshmi, situated in their own planets, who think themselves lordly, to accept such suffering position. Thus it is said that Lakshmi could not attain the benedictions that the gopis attained. It's interesting. We in Chaitanya Charitamrita, we're accustomed to hearing Lord Chaitanya's discussion with the chief priest of Sri Rangam, where they were having discussion one evening, and the question was raised by Lord Chaitanya, why is it the goddess of fortune, who is most chaste, wanted to leave the lotus feet of Narayana and enter into the rasa dance with Krishna? Sounds like not chaste. And the reply was, Krishna and Narayana, they're the same. So it's not unchaste. Okay, if Narayana and Krishna are the same, why did she have to undergo austerities? And not only she underwent austerities, she still couldn't attain entrance into the rasa dance, if they're the same. And the reply was, I don't know, but I think you know. Can you explain? So he explains. The explanation given in Chaitanya Charitamrita is similar but different. And the explanation is, she, the goddess of fortune, was thinking of herself as the consort of the Supreme Lord and understanding the Supreme Lord in a majestic way. And the majestic mood doesn't fit with rasa dance. So it's not austerities that you can enter into that mood. It's getting the mercy of those who have that mood. So she couldn't enter. So getting that mood or that regard, that intimacy with Krishna from those that have that intimacy with Krishna. That's what we're doing by the hearing process, by the way, is trying to get to that position just by the sound vibration process. But here it's saying, it is difficult for Brahma, Shiva, or Lakshmi situated in their own planets who think of themselves as lordly to accept such a suffering position. Now, being in Vrindavan isn't a suffering position. It's the greatest ecstatic position. So what's this word suffering indicating? It's leaving aside, absolutely leaving aside any sense of controllership, proprietorship, lordship, leaving all that aside. Just leaving it behind and taking a different position. And the different position is the pleasure of Krishna is everything. We're hearing it repeatedly, and repetition is very helpful for clear understanding. Uddhava, when he visited, he prayed the same. Brahma, when he visited, he prayed the same. Akrura, when he visited, he prayed the same. Wanting dust, as elevated as they are, wanting the dust from the residents of Vrindavan, or even specifically the gopis, to fall upon their head, take birth and have the opportunity for that mercy, the mercy of those who have received the mercy. That's the suffering. It's transcendental humility. Now, it's not that transcendental humility doesn't exist outside of Vrindavan. There is transcendental humility outside of Vrindavan. But the intensity of that transcendental humility in Vrindavan, it can't be surpassed. Or it reaches its apex, its highest position. And so what's that transcendental humility? It's what's being called in the commentaries here as possessiveness. Now, possessiveness sounds material. We're supposed to let go of possessiveness, material possessiveness. When you let go of material possessiveness, then you're floating around in this neutral zone, the unattached zone, liberated zone. But beyond the liberated zone is the possessiveness of the relationship with Krishna, and they being totally fixed in the mode of being in Krishna's service. The opportunity for awakening that comes from the chanting of Hare Krishna, Mahamantra, from hearing about these great personalities. That's how we can associate with them. And imbibing that mood in our everyday life towards Krishna. And that's where the bhakti path of Srimad Bhagavatam, guided by these teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam, is meant to take us. Let's go back to this statement that came earlier, because it's a little not accustomed to hearing this kind of language. When Krishna, so this is now speaking of women devatas, that's the headline. So there's different, women devatas may have 3 destinations as far as Krishna's pastimes are concerned. When Krishna, in his expansions, appears in the heavenly planets among the devatas, so expansions of his expansions. He has eternal associates, and his eternal associates may expand, like Drona and Dara. Drona and Dara are described in Canto 10, Chapter 8. Drona and Dara are expansions of Yashoda and Nanda. They were requested by the Lord's internal potency to expand themselves into the Devata realm. They did so. He was a Vasu in the Devata realm. In the Devata realm, they underwent austerities. Brahma came before them. Can we have your benediction to have a son? As a son, the personality of Godhead. He said yes. Very soon Krishna is going to appear. This is described in Canto 10, Chapter 8, Drona and Dara. So that's an example of Krishna is going to appear soon on earth. You can take birth on earth and become mother, father of Krishna. And in that way they became Yasoda Nanda. That's Chapter 8. But actually, they're expansions of the eternal associates of Krishna, Nanda Yasoda, into the heavenly realm, and then they appear as merging into the body of the eternal associates when his Prakat Lila are performed. Nanda and Jasoda. They enter into Nanda and Jasoda. And when the pastimes are over, they go back to the heavenly realm. So that's a category of expansions of Krishna's Nitya Priyas. They may also be born among the Devatas. That's that statement. There's one example. Apparently there's other examples I'm not aware of. Purpose is serving Krishna. When Krishna appears on earth, those expansions appear in Braja as young cowherd girls and become Priya Sakis of the original consorts. And then this confirms what is said in the Bhagavatam 10:1-23. Brahma is instructing the Devatas. Your wives should appear on earth, become gopis, and they consist in Krishna's pastimes. They get to participate in Krishna's pastimes by the Lord's indication. Then it speaks of Manvantar avatars. They appear amongst the Devas. There's this doubt. This is where we were. But it is not suitable to say that his consort expansions become his pran sakis. So his consort is Radha, and Radha has expansions. And Radha's expansions are her pran sakis. They're often referred to in the writings of the Goswamis. The assistants of Radha are her pran sakis. Okay, so I think that covers that part that I asked. It's just clear. Let's see if there's questions at the end. We'll go a little bit further. This is Canto 5, Chapter 18, Text 23. This is now a prayer to Lord Vishnu. O infallible one, your lotus palm is the source of all benediction. Therefore, your pure devotees worship it. And you very mercifully place your hand on their heads. I wish that you may also place your hand on my head. For although you already bear my insignia of golden streaks on your chest, this is Lakshmi offering prayer to Vishnu, I regard this honor as merely a kind of false prestige for me. You show your real mercy to your devotees, not to me. Of course, you are the Supreme Absolute Controller, and no one can understand your motives. That's a Bhagavatam verse, Canto 5, Chapter 18. Purport. In many places, the Shastras describe the Supreme Personality of Godhead as being more inclined towards devotees than towards his wife, who always remains on his chest. Brahma states like this. Krishna states like this in Uddhava Gita, where it is stated, the verse is missing. I'll read it this way, 11:14:15. Pardon me while I look it up because it somehow got deleted. 11:14:15. Here it is. My dear Uddhava, neither Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Sankarshan, the goddess of fortune, nor indeed my own self is as dear to me as you. That's text 15 from Uddhava Gita. Just insert this here. Here Krishna plainly says that his devotees are more dear to him than Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Sankarshan, the original cause of all creation, the goddess of fortune, or even his own self. He likes his devotees. It's not to say that Brahma, Shiva, and Lord Sankarshan and the goddess of fortune are not his devotees. Let's hear further. Elsewhere in Srimad Bhagavatam, our 10:9-20 verse, Shukadeva Goswami says, somehow that's not here also, but we know the verse. Brahma, Shiva, or even the goddess of fortune don't receive as much mercy as Mother Yasoda. The Supreme Lord, who can award liberation to anyone, showed more mercy to the gopis than to Lord Brahma, Shiva, and even the goddess of fortune, who is his own wife and is associated with his body. Similarly, Srimad Bhagavatam 10:47-60 states, the gopis received benedictions from the Lord that neither Lakshmi Devi nor the most beautiful dancers in the heavenly planets could attain. In the Rasa dance, the Lord showed his favor to the most fortunate gopis by placing his arms on their shoulders and dancing with each of them individually. No one can compare with the gopis who receive the causeless mercy of the Lord. In Chaitanya Charitamrita it is said that no one can receive the real favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead without following in the footsteps of the gopis. Even the goddess of fortune could not receive the same favor as the gopis, although she underwent severe austerities and penances for many years. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu discusses this point with Venkatabhatta in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Here's this reference again. Quote, the Lord inquired from Venkatabhatta, your worshipable goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, always remains on the chest of Narayan, and she is certainly the most chaste woman in the creation. However, my Lord is Lord Sri Krishna, a cowherd boy, engaged in tending cows. Why is it that Lakshmi, being such a chaste wife, wants to associate with my Lord? Just to associate with Krishna, Lakshmi abandoned all transcendental happiness in Vaikuntha, and for a long time accepted vows and regulated principles, and performed austerities. Venkatabhatta replied, Lord Krishna and Lord Narayan are one and the same, but the pastimes of Krishna are more relishable due to their sportive nature. They are very pleasing for Krishna's Sakhis. Since Krishna and Narayan are both the same personality, Lakshmi's association with Krishna did not break her vow of chastity. Rather, it was in great fun that the goddess of fortune wanted to associate with Lord Krishna. The goddess of fortune considered that her vow of chastity would not be damaged by her relationship with Krishna. Rather, by associating with Krishna, she could enjoy the benefit of the rasa dance. If she wanted to enjoy herself with Krishna, why? What is the fault? Why are you joking about this? Lord Chaitanya replied, I know that there is no fault in the goddess of fortune, but still she could not enter into the rasa dance. We hear this from the revealed scriptures. The authorities of Vedic knowledge met Lord Ramachandra and Dandakaranya, and by their penances and austerities they were allowed to enter into the rasa dance. But can you tell me why the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, could not get that opportunity? To this Venkatabhatta replied, I cannot enter into the mystery of this incident. I am an ordinary living being. My intelligence is limited, and I'm always disturbed. How can I understand the pastimes of the Supreme Lord? They are deeper than millions of oceans. Lord Chaitanya replied, Lord Krishna has a specific characteristic. He attracts everyone's heart by the mellow of his personal conjugal love, by following in the footsteps of the inhabitants of the planet known as Vrajaloka or Goloka Vrindavan. One can attain the shelter of the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. However, the inhabitants of that planet do not know that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Unaware that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, the residents of Vrindavan, like Nanda Maharaj, Yashoda Devi, and the gopis, treat Krishna as their beloved son or lover. Mother Yashoda accepts him as her son, and sometimes binds him to a grinding mortar. Krishna's cowherd boyfriends think of him as an ordinary boy and get up on his shoulders. In Goloka, Vrindavan, no one has any desire other than to love Krishna. The conclusion is, this is the last paragraph, one cannot associate with Krishna unless he has fully received the favor of the inhabitants of Brajabhumi. Therefore, if one wants to be delivered by Krishna directly, he must take to the service of the residents of Vrindavan who are unalloyed devotees of the Lord. And that's it for verse 20. So tomorrow morning we're going on to verse 21. Whew. It's been a journey. Because it's a very celebrated verse. It's a summary verse to the whole Damodara Lila, and giving us more than a glimpse, it's giving us kind of like a detailed picture of the exaltedness of the Brijbasis and their love for Krishna, and how Krishna is moved by that, and how one can achieve what they achieved by their mercy. It's really clear. And it's just, as I've been expressing a few times now, who understands all that? What theology in the world has this understanding? We know from Bhagavad Gita, we know from our practical experience as well, out of many Manushanam Sahasreshu Kaschid Yatati Siddhaye, out of many millions of persons, you may find someone who is striving for perfection, and they don't even know what perfection is, but striving for perfection. And those who have achieved it, hardly one knows Krishna. Perfection in this sense meaning I'm not this body, or Brahma Bhuta, the happiness of Brahman. And of those who have achieved that happiness of Brahman, hardly one knows Krishna. And millions of such persons, if there are such numbers. And then to understand Krishna in the way that's being described here, whew. Srimad Bhagavatam is the most exalted literature. And Prabhupada's mercy that he made it available to people in general. And we get the opportunity to make it available to people in general. And some people are intimidated. Oh, so big. I forget where we were, somewhere. You know, there's some encouragement to the host, the lady, the wife of the family, the hostess. It's too big. We just give one book at a time. Okay. Because it's like, you know, it's big. And who reads? We're too busy being successful to be successful in life, life's mission. But those who read, it's so we're exploring Um, it's not just wisdom. I mean, wisdom is important. Wisdom in the more conventional sense of wisdom, being wise, like knowing the difference between right and wrong, and being very firm and cultured. Persons who have wisdom are cultured people. They know how to do what's right and stay away from what's wrong. And they speak nicely, and they conduct their life. They live virtuously, because they know the difference between right and wrong. They have some idea of the spiritual value of life, and therefore they're little, significantly detached from the materialistic features of eat, drink, and be merry and enjoy. They're detached from that passion of life. But amongst those who are wise, how many know who they really are? And of those who know who they really are, how many know Krishna? And how many know these refined things of Krishna? It's like really special. Really special. It's flowing from the Damodara Lila, the special nature of Krishna, the special nature of Mother Jasoda specifically, and how he reciprocates with her. And he doesn't reciprocate the same way with the most learned persons in the universe, the wisdom people, or the knowers of the Vedas people. That reference that we read from chapter 87. It's some of the Upanishads personified. Upanishads are books, but there's personified Vedas, and there's personified Upanishads. And some of the personified Upanishads, they're aspiring for the association of the gopis so they can become situated like that. There's another category that we were more accustomed to hearing about, and that's the rishis in the Dandak forest that wanted Ram as their husband, and he deferred till their next appearance. And so some of the gopis involved in rasa dance were those same sages in Dandak forest. So we're not sages in Dandak forest. We're kind of ordinary people. But the same opportunity, by understanding the exalted nature of loving relationship with Krishna, we can, by hearing and by remembering and speaking about and worshipping and so forth, living our lifestyle, living a life according to that dedication to Krishna, come to that stage. That's the intention of making this Srimad Bhagavatam available to people of the world. That's what Prabhupada wanted, that's what our acharyas wanted, and we can be assistants in that mission. And especially, in the circle amongst the practicing devotees, Katayantas chamam nityam tushanti cha ramanti cha. Engage in discussing these topics, trying to understand them, as we've been doing. There's not a whole lot more verses in this chapter, but there's extensive commentary. We'll see. Just to give you some idea. From the commentaries that we will be reading, we're on page 106. And there's 195 pages total commentary. We'll be busy for a while. I'll be busy for a while. Okay, so let's see if there's some discussion.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. So, if I understood correctly, Yashoda Mata and Nanda Maharaj in the spiritual abode expanded his throne and dhara.
A partial expansion of them became Drona and Dara.
And they became Nanda and Yashoda in the
And a partial expansion of them entered into the bodies of the eternal Nanda and Yashoda during his Boma Lila. And after the Boma Lila was completed, they returned to the spiritual abode.
So in the Boma Lila, it was not in Nanda and Yashoda who were there in the spiritual world.
Why do you say not?
Or they are?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay. And
but they don't have to hang a sign on the door saying, we're gone for a while, we're going to be with Krishna in the pastime. They can expand themselves in full.
Okay. So Devaki and Vasudev also, I've heard they are the expansions of Nanda and Yashoda. So
I don't know where you heard that.
I thought I heard somewhere in...
I haven't heard it. I don't recall having heard it.
Oh, okay. Maybe...
They're eternal associates also.
Okay, so they are not the expansion of...
You're repeating yourself.
Yeah, sorry.
Not that I'm aware of. I've never heard such a thing.
Okay.
I don't recall having heard such a thing.
Okay. Thank you. To confirm.
I had another question. If serving the Vrajavasis is a way that Krishna can take us back, do we have any literature to know more?
Do you have any which?
Do we have any literature which
Literature? Yes, Srimad Bhagavatam.
talks more about the various Vrajavasis so we can...
It's right in Srimad Bhagavatam. You know, the Nectar Devotion, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, that's the science. And the sequel is Ujjvala Nilamani. It just continues, in 401. It's, very high level. It's not, we're not supposed to read that. They say it this way. Anyway, I won't say it. Get the basics down. Don't race ahead.
I have a question from today's morning class about the Prabhupada Lilamrita.
Okay.
I mean, not Lilamrita, but the
Yes. Yeah.
thing. So, you said that his name Giriraj Maharaj, when he flipped open and found the verse to see which one was the right choice, which group made the right choice. So my question is, which group made the right choice? Was it the one that were saying you have to obey whatever the spiritual master says, or the one that didn't want Srila Prabhupada to go into the bullock cart or the thing die?
The answer is those that wanted him to stay, but it's incomplete just to say that.
Is there any explanation behind?
Sure. Thank you for asking that question.
Where can you find all these stories? Because I'm really interested.
No, well, I'll provide you with a copy. In fact, I'll give you my printed copy, or you can have an electronic copy, or both, of his description. And if you want, you can write to him and ask him for further elaboration.
He's still there.
Huh?
He's still there.
Is what still where?
Is Giriraj Maharaj still there?
Giriraj Maharaj is living in California. And I wrote to him this morning. And I let him know that I read the whole thing. And he was appreciative. And I asked him some question about the timing of this discussion in Govardhan Puja. So that discussion about getting in a bullock cart was before Govardhan Puja. And then Govardhan Puja passed and Prabhupada passed 2 days after Govardhan Puja. Because we just experienced Govardhan Puja, right? And 2 days later, it's his departure. So that discussion was before Govardhan Puja. So that's what I asked him this morning, and he answered like within 3 hours.
I have another question. This
She may be just content just to read it again herself a few times. You know, his explanation of which group was right. And it's not just which group is right, it's an explanation behind how does it relate to the Damodara Lila and the special position of Mother Jasoda. Prabhupada was drawing out love. And when the position before that he was taking as whatever Krishna wants. And then he flipped it and said, Krishna is giving me permission, whatever I want. But then, what does he want? Is he wants what his devotees want. Now the devotees want what he wants, but he wants what the devotees want. So those, when it was understood, that's what Prabhupada wanted from them. That's really what Prabhupada wanted from them, was to express their love for him. And their love for him was expressed by wanting him to be with them. Okay.
Thank you.
Now, next.
My next question is about this topic about Lakshmi, that she couldn't go to the Rush events.
Yeah.
So, why? I understand that she didn't have, that she had.
A different mood.
Yeah, she had a different mood. But why can't Krishna just make Lakshmi Devi
He doesn't do that.
change the mood and then
He doesn't do that.
He goes into the rest
He doesn't do that. Why doesn't he just make you a gopi?
I don't like to.
Because you've got your own ideas. And he doesn't interfere with your ideas. He wants you to come to that position because you want to come to that position, not just make you what he wants to make you. That's love. I mean, anyway. Although he is the supreme powerful one, supposing your sister does something you don't like. Maybe it'll happen sometime, once every 15 years or something. But now you're not Krishna, but supposing you were Krishna, if you were Krishna, you wouldn't make her do what you want. You're not Krishna, but if you were Krishna, you wouldn't make her do what you want. You'd allow her to be who she is, and you'd encourage her to be, happy in her relationship with you. And it's Krishna. He's a loving personality. And, he's not attached, and he's loving. So loving includes being not attached. So he doesn't, and here's another. Krishna is everything. So there's Lakshmi and there's the gopis, because that's all part of everything. And there's rascal people. It's all part of everything. And he doesn't interfere with, but he reciprocates with. So she wanted rasa dance, but she also wanted to hold on to her idea of, not in a haughty way. I'm the goddess of fortune. Na, 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 na. She wasn't like that. It wasn't haughty. But she just had the conception of herself, which doesn't fit. It cannot enter into the rasa dance. So regardless of her credential, regardless of austerity, regardless of anything, there's one way, the mercy of those who have that mood. And by the mercy of those who have that mood, one can get that mood. We hit her funny bone or something. Okay,
Okay.
there's one more.
Yes, this is a bit unrelated, but still kind of related. So,
That was
how does
interesting.
how does it feel to the Vrijavasis, since they are they're forever with Krishna? So when Krishna recreates the universe, how does it feel to the Vrijavasis?
They're with Krishna.
Like, does it feel like
They're just in the unmanifest. They're with Krishna in not displaying their pastimes for the world to see, but they're engaged in pastimes with Krishna that the world can't see.
So the spiritual world is a whole another thing, and the universe is just getting created.
Well, you don't think of it like a box. And over here is this box, and over there's that box. It's not like that. It's not like that. The unmanifest pastimes, they're as eternal as the manifest pastimes in Krishna Loka. They're equally eternal. It's the same. Now, we don't have any experience of stuff like that. Where you can say it sounds cool. But it's just, that's reality. That's a spiritual reality. When we go to Vrindavan, we don't see Krishna's pastimes, but Krishna's pastimes are eternally being performed in Vrindavan, because the abode is eternal, and the pastimes are eternal. The associates are eternal. They're there doing Krishna's pastimes with him. We can't see, but qualified people can see, and they can participate in his eternal pastimes because they have qualification. So the real obstacle is disqualification, and the real goal is to become qualified, and that's worthy. That's a worthy goal. There's some sacrifice required to get freed from the contamination, the coverings and stuff. But it's natural to us, like being healthy is natural. Okay, your mother's got something. Yes?
Maharaj, how did Lakshmi Devi felt when she was stopped, and how did she overcome those?
Send her a text message and she may give you the answer.
Also, another question is, we hear a lot about Lakshmi Devi and gopis and Mother Yashoda. Are there any descriptions of how Lord Narayana interacts with Lord Krishna, or different incarnations of Krishna interact with each other? Like, for example, Lord Ram and Parashuram, they were facing each other in a battle. That was just one example I know of, but
I'm just scanning my memory banks and seeing if there's some interactions with Narayan and Krishna. The only thing that comes to mind is the Brahma Vimohan Lila. It's forms of Narayan that are being manifest before Krishna. And there's not so much interaction between Krishna and the forms of Narayan, because there's Krishna, and there's the cowherd boys and calves, and then they become the forms of Narayan, but we don't hear about an interplay between them.
Another question I have is, at some point I was hearing that it's sometimes nice to imagine, say, a temple that's favorite to us and imagine ourselves being there, even though we're not physically there. So similarly, or in front of the deities, even though we are not there, but mentally imagining. So would it be a speculation, or would it be encouraged to imagine, as we are here in the past times, as if like one is looking at it very closely, it's happening, and or just imagining oneself to be in Vrindavan? Does that purify, or is it more feeding the mental speculation?
My understanding is this. When the time comes for when the purification stage comes, those experiences will be manifest at the heart level. The Sanskrit word is spurti. It's just an ecstatic jubilation of the heart, and it manifests. So the imagining oneself to be there that doesn't sound right. It sounds unwholesome. It sounds speculative. It sounds like taking the thing cheaply. It sounds like. But then, trying to feel the presence of Krishna through sound, that doesn't sound taking things cheaply, or imagining, or speculation.
So like this year, we are not able to go for the yatra, but there are memories of the visit.
Yes, that's spiritual. So like Manasa Puja, that this is a bona fide category of worship. Specifically, when one is unable to do puja, one may do Manasa Puja. If you're physically able, then you do puja. But Manasa Puja is also legitimate. Puja, so seeing the deity. So let's say you're at your home or something, and you're thinking of Radha Gopi Vallabha. The time. So you call that to mind, and the form is there in your mind. And you can, with that form in your mind, you can offer prayers to them within your mind. And it's the same as standing before them. It's the same as standing before them, or not. It's close to the same. Transcendently purifying, like standing before them. It's not the same, but it's the same. You know what I mean? Meditation isn't. It's not 100% the same. That's the Gopakumar story. When he was passing through Tapaloka, doing meditation, and he was seeing his deity, Madan Gopal, but it wasn't the same. Although he hadn't seen him, it just intuitively understood it's not the same, and it's not the same. And he was congratulated for not stopping there by the residents of Vaikuntha. Nice going. You're a natural bhakta. So, in the absence of, we may do Manasa Puja of the temple deity, or the pastimes, the experiences that we had, and sometimes it just comes. You're not trying to meditate; it just comes. That's that experience. I'll share one with you. This was spoken to me by Surabhi in Hampi. Both of you know where Hampi is? Yes? So we went with a group of devotees to many places where Ram performed pastimes, Hampi being one of them. And a group of the Chinese devotees went to one of those temples where Sugriva first met Ram. There's a special temple. And when she saw the deities, she felt the deity is very powerful. And she felt this feeling came that this is Radha and Krishna married. Although it's Sita and Ram. She had that feeling. And then it's just like felt that, seeing the deity. And as she walked out, there was cows all over the place. She felt, we're in Vrindavan. So she's her telling me that moved me, and I wasn't even there. But her voice was trembling when she told the story. So those impressions may be in your mind of something that you experienced when going on yatra or something like that. You get absorbed, and you may have experiences that are otherworldly. One devotee was telling me, we went to one of those places that Dinabandhu took us to, that humongous banyan tree. We sat for a long time waiting for the buses to come. They were just having kirtan. But the cars got there early, and so it's just kirtan and kirtan and kirtan, waiting for the buses to come. So one of the devotees was going for a walk, absorbed in the katha, and they saw Krishna and the cowherd boys and the cows. They didn't share that with anybody, but it was like, and that's a memory, and your mind goes to that memory. They weren't drugged. Wasn't hallucination. What was? Who can say what it was? But so some impressions. It's easy to just standing before Radha Shyama in Vrindavan, the deities of Krishna Balaram, but specifically Radha Shyama, and just transfixed, and seeing that form in my mind. Even as I'm speaking, I can see their forms. It's natural. So it's not. I'm not in Vrindavan, but I'm in Vrindavan, by that remembrance. So you get the idea? So now in the back, let's see if our host and hostess have something.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, we often hear that pure devotees' mercies.
Yeah, hold it a little closer and turn it on. Now you're on. Okay?
I often heard that pure devotees' mercy.
Put it closer to your mouth. Thank you.
Pure devotees' mercy is causeless, and I also heard that Vrajavasis are collectively engaged in serving Krishna, and they are very encouraging. They encourage every one of us,
Yes.
every one of them around them, to serve Krishna and please Krishna. In this pastime of Goddess of Fortune, how do we understand this causeless mercy of gopis not being rendered towards Goddess of Fortune?
Okay, I think I got your question. It's two things: effort and mercy. we're revisiting the same topic. The binding of Krishna is based on effort and mercy. Now, effort may require letting go of some stuff. Supposing I make effort but I don't let go of stuff, Krishna is not going to force me to let go of stuff. If you ask Radha, well, he should be merciful and force you to let go of stuff. But he doesn't force you to let go of stuff. So in the case of the goddess of fortune, that's her identity. Oh, we'll put that in the parking lot and go over here for a moment to Uddhava or Brahma or others that visited Vrindavan and understood, I'm not qualified. No, but they appreciated, they had an aspiration, but they didn't feel qualified. They have a particular relationship with Krishna. Narada has a particular relationship with Krishna. He is another one. He's not a Brijbasi. So is he being discouraged by the Brijbasis? Well, come on over. Be one of us. He has his mood. Uddhava has his mood. Uddhava is praying to Krishna to, in his next birth, become a blade of grass in Vrindavan, so he can take the dust from the gopis' feet on his head. He's humble like anything. He has a hankering like anything. So he becomes a blade of grass in Vrindavan and gets dust from the residents of Vrindavan upon his head. There's a really nice pastime. I'll come back to your question. There's a place when you do parikrama around Govardhan Puja, Govardhan Hill. Govardhan Hill is a really long mountain, narrow, and you come back. You go down the eastern side and back up the western side. And when you come all the way to the end, your feet are killing you because it's bare feet the whole way. And you get to a place called Uddhava Kund. And there's a pastime at Uddhava Kund where the queens of Dwarka have heard about Vrindavan, so they want to see. So they're brought to Vrindavan, and there's a kirtan. And when the kirtan happens, Uddhava from the blade of grass comes to join the kirtan. They see Uddhava. They recognize him, but he was a blade of grass. You get the mercy, and then you've got the mercy. But you have to want the mercy, however it comes. So she wanted to participate, Lakshmi wanted to participate without that same understanding of getting the mercy. She just wanted to do austerities and still be Lakshmi. There's some things we have to let go. That's part of the effort. Or as we heard, this language that was being used is what was the word? Painful? What was the word? Suffering. For Lakshmi to let go of the idea that she's Lakshmi, what's she left with? She's Lakshmi. She is Lakshmi. So that there's a kind of sacrifice that one has to be willing to undergo, to let go of the conception of who you think you are and accept this other deeper, more profound conception. It's not there's a lack of mercy coming, which was what your question was. It's rare. Krishna may more readily give liberation than this. Or that what the statement is that the mercy that went to Mother Jasoda is far greater than the others. But it has to do with their Ishwar Abhav, or lords, or I'm the goddess of fortune. Okay. You satisfied or not? Okay. Okay, do we have online questions?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, it's 5 minutes to 8.
I wanted to just respond to her question.
Okay, go ahead.
The 10th canto, 89th chapter, where Krishna and Arjuna go to retrieve the sons of Brahmana.
Uh-huh.
They meet Mahavishnu, and Mahavishnu tells them that I wanted to see you. That's why I got the sons of Brahmana here. A specific verse I looked up, it's verse number 58 in the 89th chapter.
Krishna and Narayana.
Yeah, 89th chapter, 58th verse, where Mahavishnu speaks.
Oh, that's your question.
First question from, actually all the questions from Nehavalli Mataji. Hare Krishna Maharaj, we discussed earlier that Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is a ray of Vishnu. He was a Vaikuntha Vasi. My question is, how can a Vaikuntha Vasi give us a love of Vrajadham?
If the Vaikunthavasi gets the association of Rupa Goswami and his associates, he can.
Okay, second clarification. So by only following Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, we come to Raganuga Bhakti.
No.
Okay.
You come to Raganuga Bhakti not just by following Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. It's not a byproduct of Vaidhi Sadhana. You can stay forever in Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti and become a resident of Vaikuntha.
That's all is
That's
there.
it.
I wanted to ask the oft-quoted verse, that Krita Punya Punja.
Okay.
I mean, that phrase is confusing for me.
Why?
Because it's great that the Cowherd Boys
Did
are shown. The highlight was on Cowherd Boys, how they are so special that they are getting to just play around with Krishna, frolic in the forest. But then the Krita Punya Punja is indicating that they have done heaps and heaps of piety.
There's different kinds
Pious
of piety.
activities.
The answer is there are different kinds of piety.
But if they are, I mean, as we had been again discussing a lot about Sadhana Siddha, Kripa Siddha and Nitya Siddha, if they are Nitya Siddha devotees, there is no question of piety for them.
Correct.
Right? So then that phrase sort of seems to apply only to the sadhana siddhas.
Yes. Yes. Radha
Okay,
wants to-
there is a follow-up coming from Nehavalli Mataji. So then how can we come to Raganuga Bhakti?
How can we come to Raganuga Bhakti? By associating with those who are Raganuga Bhaktas and getting training by those who are Raganuga Bhaktas. Radha wants to ask her Nitya Siddha question again. No? Okay, go ahead. Ask. She wants to ask something.
I mean, it is kind of related to Nityananda.
I saw it coming.
Or should I keep it for tomorrow?
Okay.
I'll keep it for tomorrow.
Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Jai.